Ladies and gentlemen, this is your final boarding call for the good ship SS tomorrow.
Today on The Friendly Futurists, we investigate the relationship between NFTs and the Metaverse. And welcome back, and we're continuing our season on the Metaverse, and unless you're living underneath a rock for the last 2 weeks, here's a replay of Mark Zuckerberg's announcement about renaming Facebook as Meta.
To reflect who we are and what we hope to build, I am proud to announce that starting today, our company is now Meta. Our mission remains the same. It's still about bringing people together. Our apps and their brands, they're not changing either. And we are still the company that designs technology around people. Now we have a new North Star to help bring the metaverse to life.
Now, here I'm going to go on a little rant. Because, you see, here's my analogy of what Facebook is like with the metaverse. Here in Australia, we have a term, and it's called a toolie. Now, let me explain. See, for every end of high school, to every year 12, there's a celebrations here. We call it leavers, but here in Western Australia, we call it schoolies. And all the cool kids go down south, go by the beach, and have a good time. But there's a toolies with our older gentlemen normally, and they're just out of touch. They think they're still cool, but they're not. And this is what Facebook is kind of like with the meta and metaverse. You see, the metaverse already exists. It may not already exist, but it is raised so much concerns because everything Facebook does is questionable, especially when it comes to ethics. And first of all, and I'm quoting out of the Independent online, they were quite slow to act on trolling and bullying on the 2D internet. I hate to imagine what it's like in a 3D internet. First and foremost, in fact, the original investor, Roger McNamee, and I'm quoting Big Think here, said this is likely to be creating a dystopia. What you have to realise, first and foremost, is that we're thinking the metaverse in terms of classical computing and 2D internet, which is written by code. The metaverse is 3D internet and more immersive technology built by engines. The biggest engines of which in the world at the moment are multi-billion-dollar companies, by the way, Unreal Engine and Unity Engine. Unity Engine itself has got 60 million projects launched on it this year. So immediately, Facebook has even started building the metaverse and is so far behind 60 million other people. Okay, this is the first thing about. Second thing why I think Facebook are more of like a tooling is because their monetary system is wrong. The way they monetize is wrong. Okay, for the last 10 years, Facebook has been selling us off on the 2D internet as commodities through selling our data to advertisers. Now, in the metaverse itself, content creators are already creating NFTs or NFT-backed creations like cars, clothes, everything like that, and are cutting out the advertisers and the middleman and selling it directly to the customers. You see, having that business model in the metaverse is not going to work. The third one, and the most critical one about the metaverse, is that it's A, open source, and B, decentralised. Not one person is going to control the metaverse. Not one person, not one corporation, not even an oligopoly of corporations are going to control the metaverse. It's going to be, as I said already, 60 million individual projects on the Unity engine itself. It's going to be a decentralized, democratized version of the internet. So having that 2010s zebra disruptive model is not going to fly when content creators can actually sell directly to the consumer without the middleman or advertisers in the metaverse. And you can also buy digital assets. Okay, so that's my little rant for this week. Now, today's guest, we've got Steve Assoe from Montreal, and he is a NFT creator. And we also got Holly Atkinson from Boson Protocol in London. Now, Steve's going to be chatting to us. He's going to be chatting to where NFTs are going to be right now. And welcome back. And today we've got Steve Assoe. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Assoe, exactly.
Assoe. And he's works with NFTs in the artistic community in Montreal, Canada. And Steve, it's great to have you on the show.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for having me. Thanks a lot. I really like your podcast, so it's a great show to come on.
Pleasure's all mine. I'm glad I'm getting people out there having value from what I produce. Now, let's take it back. So I know we have covered this earlier in the series, but in case those who have just first come onto the scene and first listening to my podcast for the first time, how do you describe NFTs to the average person on the street?
Okay, so NFTs stands for non-fungible tokens. And really the simplest way to understand it is, let's say there's a Picasso getting sold at an auction house, right? Somebody will buy it for 50 million, let's say. He won't only be getting the painting, he will also get a certificate of ownership and of authenticity showing this is the real Picasso, the authentic one, and not a fake that you can get somewhere else that will look exactly the same, right? And that piece of paper will be what can really prove that, right? So an NFT is basically that certificate of ownership and authenticity, but for a digital item. And it's stored on something that we call the blockchain. And because it's stored on the blockchain, it's basically nobody can alter it. It's really there for life. So it's the best proof of ownership, and anybody can go on the blockchain and make sure that you actually own that certificate under your name. So basically that's what an NFT is in the simplest way to explain it.
Then I didn't need those 2 episodes then.
Basically.
I should have gone straight to you, Steve. Now, are NFTs a good investment?
Many people have asked me that, and I always start with this disclaimer that I'm not giving any financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Do your own research, right?
Yes.
But are NFTs a good investment? It can be an amazing one, and it can be the worst investment in the world. By that is, I've invested even myself in some NFTs that have 20 times increase in value, increased by 20 times. Crazy amount of profits, but that comes after a good amount of research, looking which NFTs I'm buying, why am I buying this NFT, who is the artist or the team behind that NFT, and that is doing that NFT project, right? So, but there is tons of NFTs. There's an NFT project every second basically coming out, and a lot of them don't really have any type of value behind them, right? So just buying an NFT to buy an NFT is not really going to work out. You'll probably waste your money out there, right? So it's really about not only buying an NFT for just because it's called an NFT, but also doing your research, making sure who's the team behind the NFT that you're buying, what is their future goals, and after that assessing if it's really a good investment to do.
Yes. Well, no, there's a lot of hip hop artists going out there releasing original music on NFTs, and there's so many really cool artists or street artists doing some really amazing stuff with NFTs. And I think that's
definitely.
I think that's what's probably drawing my attention to them. So moving on to that question, the NFTs represent a great way for the creative community to get monetized.
NFTs, I feel, are really, really awesome, especially right now for artists, digital artists specifically, and music artists. Digital artists have always there's many artists with huge communities, a huge following on Instagram, Twitter, and all that, but they were never able to really monetize that because any image that they post, right? Somebody can just right
Yep.
click save. So the only way they could do some kind of money is with very complex intellectual property gigs with companies, or really like, they're hired to do a specific job. But now they're finally able to sell their art, their digital art, through NFTs and monetize that, right?
Mm.
Or there's also music artists, which have the music industry, the artists have so many problems with the labels that they're signed to, their contracts and all kinds of things. Now they can sell directly to their consumers. So it's also, NFTs is really like a good way to reach your community, build your community, and connect with them directly. So I think it's really great for artists. NFTs is a great technology for them.
Mm.
So I'd say to any artist, like look into it, see how you can like use NFTs for yourself, So yeah.
And what else has your research revealed about NFTs?
My research has shown that one, NFTs is moving at a rapid pace. Like
Mm.
the way the new platforms that are coming in the space, the businesses that are getting into the NFT space, is just every day it's evolving. What happened in like 2 months ago versus now, like it increased so much. So like there's a lot happening, and people should really start being aware of what NFTs are, because it's probably going to be everywhere the same way that the internet is everywhere
Yeah.
nowadays. So it's very similar to the internet in the 1990s. It's really a big movement happening. Also, I've noticed that I'm doing research on NFTs and value, right?
Yep.
And what is the value behind NFTs? And I'm looking at all the kinds of value that it can bring you. It can be like status signaling, it can be economic value, but also I'm seeing how the value around NFTs is impacting so many other industries, such as we said, the music industry, the art industry, but other industries that are starting to come into play, such as intellectual property,
Wow.
real estate, fashion. So there's a lot of things happening within NFTs. Like it's really huge. The popular things that we hear nowadays about NFTs is mostly for art, but it's really influencing a lot of other industries.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, I can see it working well for real estate, but for
Yeah.
fashion, wow, that's
Yeah.
yeah, that's completely because everything seems to be mass produced. But that's wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's really wild. When you start seeing like everything that is being worked on, you're like,
Yeah,
wow, this is really huge.
and where do you see NFTs going? I mean, clearly there's a lot has changed in the last 4 months since I last covered it on this podcast. And
Hmm.
how you see it playing out in the future?
That's actually a great way to explain it. If in the 1990s somebody told you, "Hey yo, I'm gonna create this app where people can post pictures of their food and of themselves, and other people are going to double tap it for a like," many people might be like, that's a bit crazy. But
Yeah.
nowadays, that's Instagram, right?
Mm.
There's the Facebooks, there's everything. So it's a bit of the same way for NFTs. So NFTs, I see it in the future, there's going to be virtual worlds, right?
Yeah.
And then NFTs will be what brings ownership, what we own in those virtual worlds, because
Mm.
NFTs are able to bring ownership and authenticity to digital goods, right? Digital assets. So NFTs will be very important to build your digital presence. And for example, now I go to a show or I go to a convention and I meet someone, I hear about people, I go on their Facebook, I go on their Instagram to see who they are, right? In the future, I might go in the digital wallet of someone and go see, oh, what NFTs do they own? Oh, do they have a virtual 3D house on a land that they own? And on
Wow.
that land that they own, they might have a museum showcasing their NFTs. They might have a bunch of things on that digital land. And all this is represented through NFTs, right? So it's pretty wild, but that's where we're going. Like people are very becoming more like involved digitally. A digital presence is very important nowadays. So that's where we're going in like 5, 10 years, you know?
Yeah, that sounds like the birth of the metaverse to me, but that's really exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically that's what we call the metaverse, you know? And there's even companies like Snapchat or Apple that have been working for a few years now on AR glasses, right?
Yep.
So AR glasses, there's probably going to be a bunch of companies that want to showcase ads within our AR world, right? So you're going to be able to allow ads to come or not to come. Maybe brands will need to be buying that digital space to showcase their publicity or whatever they want in those virtual or AR worlds. And that is all represented through NFTs. So NFTs is really going to be a technology that is going to be used for so many little things here and there that are going to be important in, as you said, the metaverse, VR, AR, and all kinds of digital stuff.
Awesome stuff there, Steve. And before we go, and I like to give this a bit of a local flavour, is there any local Montreal artists that you like to make a shout out to that's doing wonderful things with NFTs at the moment?
Right now, within Montreal, there's not that many artists that went into NFT. Some are starting to see the space more, but an artist that I heard about that is from Montreal is, how do I say, his name is quite explicit. It's Fuck Render. That's basically his name. But instead of a U, it's a V, basically.
Right.
Yeah, and he's been really prominent in the NFT space. He sold many NFTs on various NFT platforms, and he's done very well for himself. I think I saw on his Instagram like 1 or 2 days ago that he's actually going to be selling some of his NFT projects through the auction house Christie's, one of the biggest auction houses in the world. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's actually really, really huge. So like, shout out to him.
Fantastic. That's the future right there, of the future of art.
Yeah, it's really influencing art a lot. Like Sotheby's, yeah, exactly. They just released their platform for selling through auctions NFTs called the Sotheby's Metaverse. That's how it's called. So like, they're really catching up to it too. Like it's really wild.
That is incredible. That's a really good note to wrap things up there, Steve. And finally, where else can we find you?
To be honest, the quickest place to find me is really on Instagram. I'm on Instagram a lot. And my Instagram name is @SteveSheldy. I can send you after exactly how you write it, but it's really @SteveSheldy. I'm really active there. If anybody asks questions on NFTs, just send me a DM. I'll usually reply within a day. So yeah.
Steve, thank you very much. I'll make sure those in the show notes.
Yeah. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It was a great experience.
Thank you very much for Steve. As we said on this whole program, NFTs are going to be the backbone of the metaverse. The metaverse is one clog in the chain that's the revolution that it's going to set off like a dominoes when blockchain is going to get to full fruition. Why I envision the future. First of all, we're going to have the metaverse. The metaverse is the engine. Then it's going to be, first of all, it's going to disrupt the internet. Then we're already seeing with cryptocurrency, it's going to get more commonplace. Then it's going to disrupt the financial system. Once that's there, we can finance elections. Then we can finance even way we govern ourselves. It's going to be a chain of events that we're going to get to a point in 10 years' time that we might question, why do we need a centralised government? But less about my visions of the future. Let's talk about the present. Now, my other guest today is Holly Atkinson from Boson Protocol, and she is discussing ways in which fashion brands are targeting young consumers on Roblox. Now, for those under 20, you might not know Roblox, but believe me, it's 50 million users already. They're all in their teens. But this is really exciting, what's really got me fascinating about it is that luxury brands are going into Roblox and other games. Don't forget that 2.5 billion people play video games and have some sort of metaverse right now. And they are selling inspiration through luxury brands where you can buy NFTs. Now, we're going to have a very good discussion today with Holly about this concept and where everything's heading with NFTs. And welcome back. And today we've got Holly Atkinson from Boson Protocol onto us, and we're going to chat about all things NFTs and the metaverse, especially in the fashion industry. And Holly, thanks for coming onto the show. And first and foremost, can you just give us a rundown on what Boson Protocol is all about?
Hey Dave, yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me. Boson Protocol is providing decentralized infrastructure for commerce through a blockchain protocol.
And how does this go about? How do we use the exchange for blockchain through Boson Protocol?
Well, Boson Protocol is disrupting commerce by providing a decentralized way for buyers and sellers to transfer physical items. And we're doing that by using NFTs and an escrow mechanism backed by game theory to provide a new incentive mechanism for that to happen.
And also read in your initial pitch, this is quite active on the game Roblox.
So there are so many different ways that we see Boson Protocol being implemented. We would love for the protocol to be implemented in all different kinds of games, different metaverses, different websites, and we're providing the infrastructure for that to happen. Roblox is one example of a game that we would love to integrate with. Our initial project called Portal, which we're launching later this year, that's going to be launching in Decentraland. And Decentraland is a virtual world or metaverse, if you like, where users can effectively be represented by an avatar in a new world where you can acquire virtual land. And with Portal, we're building out a new wonderland to trial metaverse commerce. So gamers, users in Decentraland will be able to visit Portal and experience commerce using our protocol. But it's not just a mall or a shopping experience, it's a whole playground for new experiences, socializing, events, you name it, it can be in Decentraland.
How can brands utilize the virtual world to stock physical products?
Brands can get involved with Boson in various ways, really. What we're looking to do is represent those brands in Decentraland, in Portal, where those brands will have a virtual kind of shopping space where buyers can explore and browse those products in a new immersive way. And you can imagine how that will evolve over time with the immersive experiences becoming ever more, kind of blurred, with the boundaries between digital and physical becoming less distinct. Think of how we already do that with VR. So we'd love for brands of all kinds to get involved. We're going to be kicking off soon with a couple of really important partnerships. We've announced with Ouroboros and Metafactory. So we're really excited to showcase commerce in the metaverse with our partners there. And we'll be rolling out new partner experiences and building through the land that we have in Decentraland over the coming months.
Interesting stuff. And of course, we're talking about luxury brands in the metaverse, and particularly with, say, Roblox, and these are very young demographic here. Is this also creating some sort of aspiration for these young users to, aspire to have this when they're much older? And
that's a super question about how the younger generation can get involved with decentralized commerce, really. For me, the younger generation are extremely web savvy, very Web3 savvy, understanding of blockchain and the complexities behind that. And that's really empowering for this new generation coming through. And I think that's a really natural fit for this new kind of decentralized commerce experience, but also one that will, I hope, ensure that the way that decentralized commerce is built out is in an open and new kind of way that will really empower the new users coming through. What we're looking to do with Boson is disrupt, as I mentioned, the status quo, to remove those centralized intermediaries and really enable a new kind of value system that actually drives value back into the community.
And is decentralization through the blockchain a really good thing?
What decentralization does through the blockchain is enable the use of non-fungible tokens, and that really enables this decentralized ledger. So users of the blockchain can be, and I know you've spoken about the blockchain before, users of the blockchain can be confident that there is an accurate record there that cannot be tampered with. And obviously that depends on which kind of blockchain you're using. But with Ethereum, which is our initial focus, we are obviously looking at a very secure ledger there. So those transfers of physical items, those sales, are represented on the blockchain, they're confirmed, and users that hold the Boson commitment tokens can be confident that those tokens belong to only them and they can't be taken away from them. And then those users will be able to redeem those commitment tokens for the physical items that they've purchased.
Is there any other shared benefits for members within the Boson Protocol ecosystem?
We're building out our tokenomics model. We have the Boson token, and the idea is that over time, the brands and buyers, sellers, other members of our community who integrate with Boson Protocol, use the protocol, they'll become part of this wider system that will create and maintain a new way of delivering value. So absolutely, there are longer term benefits, network effects of being part of a kind of new commerce system like this.
As this podcast is about the future, Holly, how do you see e-commerce in, say, 5-10 years' time?
5 to 10 years' time, I mean, for me, e-commerce is still going to be a thing. But I think what we'll also see alongside that is we'll see de-commerce, decentralized commerce, which will have a much greater hold, I'm hoping. Obviously, so many different aspects of tech are evolving very rapidly. So we have decentralization. If you think about the last couple of years, we've seen the rise and rise of DeFi. We've seen the rise and rise of NFTs. Now we're seeing that with the Metaverse. And this is all happening in an incredibly short space of time. So de-commerce in a few years will be built out. Certainly through Boson Protocol, we'll have launched Portal and will be expanding throughout the Metaverse with our aim to be the go-to digital to physical protocol in, multiple metaverses, other platforms as well. But more broadly, think about also how other parts of technology are evolving, things like mixed reality. So we have AR, VR. That's going to really enhance these experiences that users can have in participating in decentralized commerce as well.
It's very interesting about mixed reality, because I think that where we can see it is that I can envision in the near future we can just have those smart mirrors that can actually then have with fashion items and everything like that. You can have them looking in an outfit they can aspire to, or they can look good in, or they can mix and match. I think that's be very fascinating to see.
Absolutely. Imagine doing that in an experience like Portal as well, where you can immerse yourself with these items that you're browsing, you're looking to buy something, but you don't need to leave your house. So this plays into so many things, but particularly as we've seen with the pandemic, we haven't been able to travel. We haven't been able to go about our daily lives in the way that we were used to. And actually this kind of new experience really makes all of those, kind of shopping experiences and other kind of exciting experiences that we can have with our friends or with people overseas. It actually enables that. So Accessibility here is something that we can also address through this sort of mixed reality experience. We can bridge long distances, of course. It can help, with people feeling included, inclusivity. That's another benefit of decentralization, in my opinion, particularly where users are represented by avatars, because actually your avatar can look however you want it to look. There are so many interesting ways that this can develop over time. And actually, we don't know how that's going to look. And for me, it's part of what makes it exciting.
Absolutely, yeah, it's very exciting. And I also like to think that through mixed reality and stuff might actually cut down on waste from people splurging and playing impulse buying by actually just focusing on something they actually want. And I think that will have a lot of societal impacts, because that means there will be less textile waste that will going into landfill, and it'll be actually make it more of a sustainable fashion industry.
That's one likely outcome, particularly when people can be directed exactly to the items that they're looking for. Another consideration is around climate, with travel being reduced, with these immersive experiences being enabled, people won't potentially want to travel to have these experiences as much. So potentially there's a benefit there as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's really, really exciting stuff there, Holly. This is what the show's all about, actually. Finally, before I let you go, and I'm joining our chat, is there anything I didn't ask but should?
I've spoken already about Portal. We're really excited to be launching Portal later on this year. We really encourage everybody to go and check out Decentraland. We have a space in Decentraland already. Go and check it out and keep a lookout for Boson Protocol's updates. We have regular events, regular eCommerce meetups. We have one happening every month. We'd love to get people more familiar with getting involved and participating in these metaverses. This is free to do, very easy and accessible, and absolutely a lot of fun. So we would love for everybody to dive in and check it out.
Absolutely. And Holly, it's exciting roads ahead, because I think Web 3.0 is already here, and thanks to folk like you. I'd like to check up on you in, say, a year's time and see how everything's progressing, because I think this is a really exciting delve into the future that we're experiencing right now.
I would absolutely love to do that, and it's so exciting, and who knows what will happen in the next year.
Holly, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much, Dave.
And thank you very much for Holly and the team for Waxman again for putting me in touch, and for Steve as well for his input. I'm sure you learnt lots about where NFTs and the Metaverse are today. Now, join us next week as we're going to look deeper at how an individual can play Metaverse. Now, it might seem a lot like Ready Player One in the beginning of especially getting that movie, but we've got a developer who is developing a voice app for the Metaverse and other applications. So stay tuned. Friendly Futurist is a podcast West production. It's produced and edited by me, Dave Monk, further editing by Alvin Lacerna. If you love this show, best thing you can do is find us on the Acast app, download us, and hit the notification bell. That way we can help grow the community within the Acast ecosystem. If you're not going to use Acast, that's fine with me. Please make sure you subscribe to me on either Apple, Spotify, or your favourite podcast platforms. Again, please leave us a 5-star review and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on a fresh episode when we drop. If you really love the show, best thing you can do is support us via Buy Me a Coffee. Links in the show notes. A tasty oat flat white will do me fine. Also, please subscribe to my monthly newsletter where I'll write out what I learnt this month. The community is growing. Only thing is missing is you. So next time, friends, remember to stay curious, and the future is user-friendly.